13 minutes to 1, Geoffrey Boot, MHK. And good afternoon, Nigel. You're live with the Minister.
Good afternoon, Minister. Good afternoon, both of you. Question is, why is the Island Man so keen on trying to concrete over all the beautiful green pastures and fields that we have on the island? You only have to look at that huge development outside of Ballasalla on the way to Douglas. The Meadows in Castletown is now going to have a huge development from Victoria Road. There's places in Glenvine which are being built over. It seems to be that we're just going to have one huge village from Port Erin to Ramsey in future without any beautiful open areas.
Well, Nigel, I'm sure that my intention, nor the other ministers and members of Keys, are keen on concreting over the whole of the Isle of Man. We've just had a very extensive debate on the Eastern Area Plan, which was passed through Tynwald at the last sitting. And the idea of these plans, and hopefully we'll have a North and Western plan within the next few years, is to identify areas that are suitable for development, incentivise brownfield development where possible, but at the same time keep those green pieces that are so important to everyone between the different developments. There has to be a balance between economic growth and development and providing decent housing for our population and the countryside. One could argue that we should stop all development and just freeze things in aspect, but I don't think that's what people really want, and it's proof that there is demand for housing. You build houses and they do sell. But
where do you live, Nigel?
I live in the south of the island in Colby, but if I could just come in on that point. Yes, it's very grand to be able to offer builders opportunity to put houses on. But where are all these people coming from? I mean, if you're thinking that you're going to have tens of thousands of people coming from the mainland or other parts of the world, that may, how does it fit with what jobs these people are going to be doing on the Isle of Man? I mean, you can't have everybody working for PokerStars.
You're absolutely right there, and economic development is key to the island. When I first came to the island 35 years ago, the population was around 65,000, and it's steadily grown, and we're now just under 85,000. But the fact of the matter is, we're not giving builders land to build on. Builders build because they want to build to make a profit, and if they don't sell the houses and the houses aren't marketable, they won't make a profit. And at the moment, it would seem that there are sufficient buyers for the houses that are being produced, but that's the idea of having strategic and area plans so that you can balance demand to supply, and that's what we're doing. Obviously, people don't like to see large developments on their doorstep. I live on the outskirts of Peel in St John's, and I've seen Peel grow dramatically over the last 15 years or so. And whether that is appropriate to grow much more is a question that will be answered in the plan preparation process in the next year or so.
Okay, Nigel, thanks for calling us today. You talked about encouraging and prioritising brownfield site. There are areas of Douglas that have sat brownfield for 20 years and more. When will they get developed?
Well, we would be very keen to see some of these areas developed. Brownfield sites are difficult to develop sometimes. They have inherent problems with pollution, or they have structures on them that need removing, and there are the surrounds. Some of these sites are vacant because A, they're very costly to develop, B, they're on the market for too much money, and C, there is an element of people wanting to live in various locations, and they might not be in a location that people want to live in. So we have to balance all those when we're talking about brownfield site development.
How do you feel about the proposed marina for Ramsey's South Bay?
Well, that's obviously going to be subject to a planning consent at some stage. From a purely personal perspective, I think if it's a viable proposition and it can meet the required environmental standards, if I look at what happened in Peel, we've had problems with the marina there, with silt, etc. But Peel is a different place now that there is a marina there. When I first came to the island, the Peel Harbour used to dry out, and it wasn't a very attractive proposition when the tide was out. And it's also brought a lot of new activity into Peel itself, and that may be the case in Ramsey as well, but the case has to be proven.
James, a note in, any comment from the Minister on some residential planning applications submitted over 12 months ago still waiting for a decision? Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware. Well, there may well be some. I'm not in a position to comment without further research in terms of the applications and the time that they've taken. All I can say is that the officer teams are motivated to get applications through as quickly as possible. They have targets for applications. I review them with my political team on a monthly basis, and we take them to task if they're falling behind. And of course, over the COVID period, that is exactly what happened. But applications are never as simple as they seem, particularly large applications. There is a requirement for a lot of information, and sometimes an environmental impact assessment and various other things that do take time.
Okay, we have 3 minutes left, 3 minutes to talk about climate change. If you could sum it up in 3 minutes, the world will be happy.
Yeah. I wished I could solve climate change in 3 minutes, but it's highly unlikely to happen. As I think you're probably aware, I am at the moment taking the climate change bill through the Keys. This is a very important piece of legislation that will set the trend and targets for net neutrality, CO2, carbon neutrality by 2050 or earlier if possible. Obviously, it's a complex piece of legislation, but it's mainly enabling at this stage. There are technologies that are in development that will perhaps change the way we address climate change. Certainly, there are some quick actions that we've identified, I think around 60 as phase 1 of the action plan, and we are in phase 2 development at the moment, but things are moving ahead. We've got some things like peatland restoration. We've banned peat cutting, forestry or reforestation, the agri-environment scheme where we're encouraging environmental issues, but in terms of power production, we're looking at some green energy initiatives there. There is a lot going on in the background. Some people would like us to move faster, and I appreciate that is something that is an aim that is good for everyone. But at the same time, we have to balance the economy, people's lifestyles, and the climate change agenda to make sure that we get the best outcomes. We're a small island. Very few people compared to larger jurisdictions. We cannot afford to make big, expensive mistakes and take wrong paths when it comes to addressing climate change. We need to do it properly, effectively, and we need to do it on island, not just buy offsets from South America or somewhere, which is not really doing what we need to do as a community.
Okay, thanks for being with us today, Geoffrey Boot, Environment, Food and Agriculture. We didn't even touch wind power or much on solar power as well, but hopefully we'll do that next time. And so for Christmas and the New Year into 2021, do you have your fingers crossed about Brexit, or do you think everything will work out?
There's two sides to Brexit at the moment. There's the public side and the posturing that's going on, and you can see that between the UK and France particularly, and the other side where the negotiations are taking place behind closed doors. I have my fingers crossed, and I'm touching wood when I say this, that there will be an outcome that is good for the UK and good for us. If there is no deal, we are prepared.
Geoffrey Boot, thanks for being with us today. Good to talk to you. Geoffrey Boot, Glen Faber and Peel MHK for Environment, Food and Agriculture. If you want to follow up on that, by the way, email manninline at manxradio.com, or you can call 682-631. Later on this week, Thursday, we're live at QE2 School in Peel. It was the school we went to 4 days before lockdown, so it'll be interesting to hear the students' take on COVID-19. And this coming Friday, Lawrence Skelly, Enterprise Minister, will be live in the studio. Thanks to producer Barry Redfern, I'm Andy Wynn. And the Mannin Line is back tomorrow at 12 midday.